Let's talk about Julian. Did you know there was a thing called the Julian calendar? Yeah, and they use it for nearly 1600 years in the Western world. Nearly 1600 years. In 1582, they switched 1582. Just a bit over, let's do the math. 443 years ago, they switched over to the Gregorian calendar. So that's the calendar that we're currently on, that we've been using for the last 443 years. So in 1582, they switched the Gregorian calendar to correct inaccuracies in the Julian calendar, which had caused the equinoxes and holidays like Easter to drift from their intended seasonal timing. The Julian calendar's 365.25 day year was slightly too long, resulting in about 10 days of accumulated error by the 16th century. The reform, organised by this chap, Pope Gregory. What is it with the popes changing things up when they like? That's too much power for a pope. All of a sudden, you know what? Let's change the calendar. It's just a bit sus to me, don't you think? Nearly 1600 years we're using one calendar. All of a sudden, some pope doesn't like the calendar they were using for nearly 1600 years. Let's change it up. Just a little bit sus to me. Anyway, this fella in 1582, as I said, dropped 10 days and introduced a more precise leap year rule, making the calendar once again aligned with the solar year and thus correcting the date of Easter. Now let's talk about the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar started on January 145 BC when Julius Caesar implemented a reform of the Roman calendar. It introduced a solar-based system with a 365-day year and a leap year every 4 years, a rule that remained in use for over 1600 years before being replaced by the Gregorian calendar in 1582. Jesus was born about 45 years later, around 45 BC, when this calendar was introduced. Isn't it interesting it was done at 45 BC? Some maths, 2025. I'm not drawing conclusions here. I'm just giving you some maths, some data. Okay, so why does it matter what calendar we use, right? Well, Jesus was born in the time when the Julian calendar was used. Okay, so if we just ignore the Gregorian calendar change that happened in 1582 and we just continue with the Julian calendar, where does that land us today? Okay, so on our normal calendar today, it's Monday, September 29, 2025. The Julian calendar is 13 days behind. So the Julian calendar is currently 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar. Yada, yada, yada. So 13 days. If we count back 13 days from September 29, that would land us on September 16. So on the Julian calendar, we are still on September 16. So that means September 23rd to the 24th has not passed yet on the Julian calendar. If it is 16 September on the Julian calendar, that means there's 7 days left before we get to September 23rd. We have a week. September 3rd on the Julian calendar will be a week from now, Monday next week. For the simple fact that Jesus was born when the Julian calendar was in use and lived in the time that the Julian calendar was in use, I think it's worth switching over, isn't it? We don't like Greg anymore. We like Julius. Listen, Greg, I don't know what you had against Julian. Come on, Greg. Why would you do that? Julian? It's a nice name. It rolls off the tongue nicely. I personally have already switched over, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because God has given me some words that were supposed to fall on specific dates for my own personal life. And they will, but now on the Julian calendar. But there are also a couple of other major things that I'm looking out for now on the Julian calendar. I'll show you one of them. Yes, we will get to the September 23rd, 24th. We will get to that, but just hang on for a second. So one marker that I was looking out for was this guy's prophecy from God's Voice Daily. He said that on September 19, but according to his understanding, it would have been, at the time, he would have been going like myself and many others by the Gregorian calendar. He said on September 19, the fall of the Western world order, the current world order, would begin to fall. But this brother didn't know about the Julian calendar at the time, didn't know that the Julian calendar was 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar. September 19 has passed on the Gregorian calendar, but not on the Julian calendar. So if the fall of the current Western world order were to begin on the Julian calendar, and today's September 16 on the Julian calendar, then it would begin on October 2nd, 3 days from now. 3 days from now on the Gregorian calendar is October 2nd. And it will be September 19 on the Julian calendar. And with the way things are shaping up currently, with Russia provoking NATO by flying jets into its airspace, flying drones into NATO airspace, Russian forays into NATO airspace are causing alarm. Here's why they might be happening. So Russian jets, like war fighter jets, are kind of just crossing the bounds of NATO airspace that they shouldn't be. Trump recently came out and said he would be okay for NATO nations, NATO member nations, which America's part of, to shoot down these Russian aircraft. NATO chief echoes Trump's call for member countries to shoot down Russian planes. The Defense Secretary of America, this guy here, Pete Hegseth, has called a massive meeting of all top United States military generals and admirals. This isn't something that has happened in like decades. This is like huge. And the chief is going to be in attendance there as well. So it's a big deal. Like it's nothing small. With the way things are shaping up, we could very well see October 2nd, which is September 19 on the Julian calendar, the beginning of the fall of the Western world order. So be looking out for October 2nd, potentially for something major to be going down, okay? Let's address the elephant in the room. Do I believe in the October 6 to 7, which will be September 23rd to the 24th on the Julian calendar? Do I believe in a October 6 to 7 catching away, harpazo? Do I believe it is the real Feast of Trumpets? 1 billion% that on September 23rd to the 24th on the Julian calendar, I believe there will be a catching away. I believe. I'm not drawing definite conclusions here. I'm just saying I believe. I wish Jesus would appear tomorrow, but he will come at the appointed time. The real Feast of Trumpets. That's what I believe. My own personal belief. I watch for the appearing of Jesus every day, but I know that he doesn't come on a random day. He will come at the appointed time. And if he lived in the time that the Julian calendar was used, why wouldn't he come on that schedule? It matters. It matters because he was born when the Julian calendar was used. So we have to count from when he was born on the Julian calendar, not some Gregorian calendar that was replaced, switching up the Julian calendar in which Jesus was born. So we count the days leading up to now on the Julian calendar. So that's why I believe that my prophecy, the watcher community, our collective prophecy, and yes, Brother Joshua's prophecy, I stand with Brother Joshua too, but I don't just believe because of Brother Joshua's testimony anymore. I have my own personal revelation, and so do others in the watching community. Like, we're standing now on our own personal revelation, okay? So yes, we are looking at the Julian calendar because Jesus was born on the Julian calendar. And we continue to count on the Julian calendar because he was born on the Julian calendar. And the Julian calendar is 13 days behind, so we go with that. September 23rd to the 24th hasn't passed on the Julian calendar that Jesus was born on. So our prophecy still stands. He will come at the appointed time. Not the fake Gregorian calendar, fake Feast of Trumpets that just went by. So that means we are looking at October 6 to 7. I went on a walk recently and I saw this. It's on my street. I had never noticed this until like 2 days ago. Also, October 7, 2023, something very significant happened on that day. The Hamas surprise attacks on Israel. Wouldn't it be interesting for Jesus to make a surprise appearance on October 7? And the confirmations that I've gotten, they match October 6 to 7 even better. And I'm going to have everything that God has promised me on the dates that he promised me he would give me those things on the Julian calendar.